in December 2019, when Boris Johnson won the election with an 80-seat majority. Politically, the country looked like this. Each one of these, of course, is a constituency, the colour of the party that won. Lots of Tory blue in England and in Wales, lots of SNP yellow in Scotland. But since then, the very map that shapes our democracy has been redrawn. All but 77 of these seats have been changed in the first overhaul since 2010. Now, it's only a little line here and a small tweak there to ensure everybody's votes are more or less equal, but here it is. And it means more seats in England, fewer in Scotland and Wales. But the real difference is here on what it means. Now, this is the number of seats each party won last time, determining the makeup of our current House of Commons. But under the redrawn constituency boundaries, this would have been the estimated result. And what do we see? The Tories have more seats, 7 more, while Labour down 2, Liberal Democrats down 3. And how would that have changed the 2019 outcome? Look, at a stroke, the Tories would have won an even bigger majority compared to the previous boundaries, and Sir Keir Starmer has an even bigger mountain to climb if he wants to seize the crown from Rishi Sunak. Now, this is the first of Sky News' brand new swingometers. As someone once said, it's just a bit of fun because it presumes everyone in the UK acting in the same way and makes a lot of assumptions, but it's still a great tool for understanding what's going on. Now, this one looks at what happens if the number of people voting Tory goes up. Look, you can see the number of seats Rishi Sunak's party increases. But let's be honest, that's not what the polls, the betting markets and the MPs expect. The next election is all about Labour gains. So let's go through the key milestones. 0. Right, here we go. This is the status quo under the new boundaries. Now, if there is a 4.2 percentage point swing, the Tories lose 47 seats. And Rishi Sunak no longer has a majority. And that means he's all but certain to be out of number 10 because no opposition party will work with the Tories. This happens if there's a swing big enough to take Wrexham in North Wales. Sir Keir Starmer would make his claim to be Prime Minister, but it's a really unstable hung parliament, unless there's a swing of 8.3 percentage points and Labour win at least 81 seats. Each dot represents seats, meaning that they've overtaken the Tories as the largest party. They'd still be short of an overall majority, and they would need the Liberal Democrats or the SNP to govern. And this, a 12.7% swing, is what Labour needs to be able to govern alone, without any help at all. A majority, overall majority in the Commons of 2. But this needs 125 Labour gains. But let's just pause here for a moment to concentrate on this winning line. 12.7 percentage points for an overall majority of 2. So look at this. This is a bit historical. It's never happened before. The biggest ever swing to date was in 1945. You could see it here. It was a Labour landslide after the wartime coalition. But that was quite unusual. Blair's famous 1997 victory, well, that was a swing to Labour of 10.2 percentage points. So when you compare this to what Keir Starmer needs for a majority, you can see how big a task that is. Now, a majority of 30, well, that's a swing of 13.8 percentage points. And a majority of 50, well, that needs 14.5. It's worth saying currently the polls imply a swing of about 15 percentage points. Will that hold in a campaign? Now, the final seat that would fall on a swing needed for Labour to gain an overall majority is Buckingham and Bletchley. Here's what the voters there think.
I'd never go Labour because they're too much for what is wrong with this country.
Last time I voted for Conservatives, and I think all of us have been a bit disappointed, to say the least, about what's been going on.
They will give away money at voting time for the next election. That's a ploy, but by the same token, it keeps me sweet.
Do you know what? I really haven't got a clue because I think they're both as bad as each other.
So, of course, the battle between Labour and the Conservatives will be pivotal. But what's going on in Scotland will also determine who our next Prime Minister is. Now, here we need to look at the potential swing from the SNP to Labour. Now, keeping all the other parties the same, this is the last election result. Just 1 seat for Labour, 48 for the SNP. Now, Labour themselves have been suggesting that they could win 12 to 15 seats in Scotland. That would require a swing of 9.5 percentage points. An 11.1% swing would mean Labour overtaking the SNP to become the largest party. But since the 1950s, Labour hasn't formed a government with less than 40 seats in Scotland, which would require a huge 25.1 percentage point swing. And for what it's worth, current polls suggest one of around 10 to 12 percentage points from Labour to the SNP. Now, these are the sorts of seats that Labour needs to take from the Tories to get that majority. Maybe a little bit less if the SNP collapse in Scotland and if the Lib Dems do well in the south of England. But it's a lot, you can see it. Can Sir Keir Starmer pull it off?